taking a single breath of air. And in plunging over 400 feet into an underwater world with no noise, no natural light, and where the pressure is 12 times greater than on the Earth's surface. This is the world of extreme freediving, called No Limits.
95% is mental, probably 5% is physical.
But is there a limit? How much can the human body endure when you're diving into the abyss?
It is very similar to being shot from a circus cannon, because sooner or later, there is only one prize, and that prize has to be death.
In the world of competitive freediving, only a few have got what it takes. For world champion freediver Pipin Ferreras, that includes total dedication bordering on obsession.
Try to discover how deep the human being is able to go. It's been my motivation, the motivation of my life.
Pipin and his wife Audrey have just 2 days left to train before they'll attempt to set an official record for freediving in tandem over 380 feet. The very next day, Audrey will try to set a new women's record for the world's deepest free dive.
We will try to find around 500 feet of water. That's going to be 1.5 miles from shore.
Pipin and Audrey are among an elite group of freedivers who can reach extreme depths with no artificial breathing equipment. Freediving began more than 5,000 years ago in ancient Greece, where divers were depicted in frescoes. Today, freediving is still practiced in places like the Caribbean and Asia to hunt for fish or dive for pearls. Competitive freediving debuted in 1949 when Raimondo Bucher, a Hungarian-born Air Force colonel, was offered a sizable sum of money if he could dive 30 meters and swim back to the surface on one breath of air. He did, and over the next 5 decades, records were smashed again and again in the quest to reach ever greater depths. But as the sport's popularity grew, so did the number of deaths. Last year alone, 2 competitive freedivers died during training. The greatest risk is due to what's known as shallow water blackout. That's when divers run out of oxygen and pass out, often just a few feet from the surface. South Africa's Trevor Hutton did just that on a recent dive off the coast of Cyprus. His safety divers pulled him to the surface, where he regained consciousness after a few seconds. Professional divers like Kurt Crack know just how crucial a role safety divers play.
People don't die from shallow water blackout, they die from drowning. They've gone too deep, they've exerted too much, they've stayed too long, they have a problem, they black out and they drown.
To ensure Pipin and Audrey's safety, a team of scuba divers are on hand to help them if anything goes wrong. Once they reach the open waters off the coast of Miami, they drop anchor and begin preparing for the dive. In No Limits freediving, the divers use a detachable device called a sled to bring them down to depth. The bottom half carries an 80-pound weight. The upper part, a balloon, to bring the divers back up once it's filled with compressed air. A long cable is threaded through the sled and dropped underwater to measure the distance. For Pipin and Audrey, today's training dive is critical. They had bad weather the last few weeks, and then some bad luck.
I keep training very hard on land, waiting for the good weather, and when the good weather came, I make a dive and everything was fine. And then I get cold in the water. We make three successive dives the same day, and after the second one I get very cold.
With the cold came a fever, and now the lingering congestion will make equalizing both difficult and painful. But with a world record at stake, Audrey's determined to succeed. Just before the dive, Audrey and Pipin begin specialized ventilation exercises designed to decrease the carbon dioxide in their body and extend their breath hold time.
Menos dos.
Carlos Sierra gives the countdown, signaling the team of safety divers to begin taking up their positions underwater. When the moment is right, Pipin and Audrey give each other a silent signal. Then, they take one last breath and plunge into an alien world.
Equalizing is very important on the way down. You feel the rush of the water past your body. You feel the increasing pressure. You feel your wetsuit getting smaller and smaller, and the increase of speed because you're losing buoyancy and you're becoming more negative. They'll actually get to a point where equalizing can become quite difficult, and some freedivers will actually flood their sinuses, and what that does is replace the air in the sinuses with water, so it's a lot easier to equalize.
How can humans survive at depths hundreds of feet below the surface of the sea? For years, researchers thought a diver's rib cage would crack under the water pressure, causing instant death. But freedivers believe we possess an untapped ability to adapt in deep water. It's similar to the natural ability that allows marine mammals like sea lions to dive more than 400 feet and stay underwater for up to 15 minutes.
What we have to realize is that we have an evolution that spans millions of years, and we're originally born from the oceans, and we have what are called mammalian diving reflexes. These reflexes change our physiology to allow us to adapt into the water.
While some scientists would dispute that theory, it's clear the human body can and does change when submerged in water. First, the heart rate slows from an average of 65 to 70 beats per minute down to as few as 12. At the same time, blood moves away from the extremities to protect and supply the vital organs, including the brain and heart, with additional oxygen. As the pressure increases, the lungs are compressed, and then the vessels engorge with blood, an action that saves the lungs from total collapse.
Now the lungs are basically becoming fluid-filled, and fluid being incompressible allows us to withstand greater pressures.
More than 400 feet underwater, for Pipin and Audrey, these reflexes mean the difference between life and death. The training dive is a success, despite Audrey's cold.
That was fine. I have a little bit of pain during the way down, but I can clean it, so that was okay. That's why we decided to do a deep dive, and we did 417 feet.
Free diving to such extremes may seem crazy to some, but for Pipin and Audrey, it's almost as natural as breathing.
I don't remember the first time I've been diving, and I don't remember the first time I saw the ocean. For me, the ocean it's part of my life.
Audrey was born in France and spent family vacations swimming and playing by the ocean. By 13, she was scuba diving. Across the sea, in a small coastal town in Cuba, Pipin's love for the ocean eventually drew him to spearfishing, the perfect way to hone his skills.
There were so many spear fishermen in Cuba, very, very good ones. Because of that, the fish was always going in deeper water in order to avoid the spear fishermen. So we had to find solutions to go deeper than the other kids in order to get more fish.
Pipin's determination and talents paid off. By 1987, he was diving professionally. And by the time he left Cuba in 1994, he was taking the freediving world by storm. Over the next 6 years, Pipin set a number of records, achieving his greatest feat in the year 2000 with the deepest recorded free dive in history, a mind-bending 162 meters, over 534 feet.
I went to 120, 130, 150, 162. Now I'm thinking about going to 200 meters. Probably when I do 200 meters, I'm gonna quit, but I don't know. I cannot say that that's my last word on that.
Pipin met Audrey 5 years ago during a record dive in Mexico.
We met by chance. Those kind of things that happen in life that you can't explain.
Audrey was studying in Mexico and majoring in marine physiology. She chose to study Pipin as part of her thesis because of his freediving ability.
Actually, when I was doing my thesis, I was in love with this person.
They met, and just 2 days later, Pipin asked Audrey to live with him in Miami. They've been together ever since.
When you see him like physically, he's very strong and he looks like a very big man. But inside, it's the opposite.
That's because Pipin believes in a strong connection between mind and body, one he's developed over the years through advanced yoga techniques.
The electrodes are going to allow us to record the electrical activity of his heart.
Pipin credits his powers of meditation with the ability to control his heart rate. In this experiment, he holds his breath in cold water to simulate a dive, while doctors measure his heart rate.
Okay, that's great. What's very interesting is that you told us, didn't you? You said, I'm going to put it up to 120, and lo and behold, it was up to 120. Then you said, oh, I'm going to stick it down to 50, and lo and behold, it went down to 50. And now you're saying,
For researchers like Dr. Maurice Cross, an expert in diving medicine, there's much we can learn from what freedivers do.
Now here is a man who, through training, can add 20% to his lung volumes. Now what could he teach us about the management of asthma? Here is a man who can almost tell you before he does it where he is going to put his heart rate. Now what could he teach people, for instance, whose hearts flutter irregularly and at the wrong time?
Take a maximum inspiration.
But Dr. Cross and others are concerned about the quest to dive deeper and deeper, to the point of no return.
One has to really ask oneself why these people want to hold on to a weight and go down to greater and greater depths. There has to be a limit. There has to be a point when the amount of chest compression causes so much lung damage that you will not come back.
Pine and Audrey aren't sure where that limit is, but these world champions are willing to push it as far as they can with today's tandem attempt.
Tim, will you give me a hand here, please?
Unlike Europe and Latin America, freediving in the United States is still a fledgling sport. This dive will be one of the first official events ever held in America.
How I feel, I don't know yet. I will know as soon as once we put everything together, I will know. Now.
Before they leave, the cable to mark their descent must be officially measured.
We'll extend the line all the way, and then we're going to measure the line from one end until we have the actual distance that is required for the race. This is all feet.
Aguanta.
Just to verify, we'll measure from this mark back.
The dive will take place 12 miles offshore. The trip out, a little over an hour. On the way, Pipin takes time to meditate, a ritual to help him visualize the dive and focus his mind. While he and Audrey prepare mentally, the team handles last-minute details. Ron Everty is in charge of underwater photography.
Today we're going to record Pipin and Audrey's dive, and we're going to do that with 4 underwater digital cameras. One of them will be mounted on the sled, and we'll be recording their descent. And then we have 3 underwater cameramen who are going to basically film everything in digital cameras with underwater housings.
Next, the safety divers suit up. Their tanks are checked, then rechecked to make sure everything is in working order. With a dive like this, there's no room for mistakes.
Actually, to be very honest, Pipin and Audrey, they are quite safe. They know exactly what they're doing. They are experts. They've been doing it for years. So they're fine, actually. I'm not so concerned about them in reality as I could be for the safety divers.
That's because the divers have to worry about decompression sickness, or what's commonly known as the bends. Throughout the dive, nitrogen from compressed air is dissolved into the diver's bloodstream and tissues. If the diver surfaces too quickly, the gas can form bubbles, causing potential paralysis and even death. For Pipin and Audrey, absorbing too much nitrogen isn't likely because they're going down on a single breath of air. The first thing they do is lower the cable and sled into the water.
Man, it looks good. It's scary.
When Carlos gives the 2-minute warning, a hush descends over the crowd. Audrey and Pipin begin ventilating. Once Pipin and Audrey submerge, they control the speed of the sled, which is crucial to diving so deep. As the pressure increases, the sled moves faster, making equalizing more difficult. If Audrey and Pipin don't slow the sled to help them equalize, the pain can become so great they could pass out and suffer brain damage. They reach the end of the line at just under a minute into the dive. Once they unhook the sled, and brings them back to the surface. It's official. The deepest mixed tandem dive on the record books now stands at 101 meters, or nearly 330 feet. For Pipin, success is mixed with relief.
The same call that she had last week, she passed it to me 3 days ago, and I was a little bit worried.
But the celebration is a short one. Audrey's going solo tomorrow to try and set a new women's world record of just over 415 feet.
This dive for her tomorrow is probably the most important dive that I ever put together. For us as a couple, it's important that she do it and I do it. This is going to be the main motivation of doing this kind of dive.
The next day begins on a high note. The weather is perfect, and all the pre-dive preparations are on track. But Audrey's still not over her cold, and she can't take any medicine, or she'll be disqualified.
Vitamin C to help a little bit, and a lot of clinics.
Her condition has some of her teammates worried.
Once she reaches the bottom, it's going to take now longer for her than ever before to reach the surface. So, of course, there is always a possibility maybe of running out of oxygen at a certain point in terms of her body. Blackout is a possibility always for free divers, and especially in these extreme conditions or extreme dive. So those are the things that we are kind of keeping an eye.
But Audrey's not about to cancel the dive.
I always say that when your mind is ready and when you can do something with your mind, that you can do it with the body will follow your mind. And my mind is very ready.
A special sensor gauge will record her rate of descent. 3 more computers, including one on each leg, will be used as backup.
You can tighten it up.
Today, the current is stronger. That makes it hard for Audrey to hang on the line.
When I'm breathing on the surface, sometimes I can open my eyes, but I won't see people. I just see shadows and everything go very slow.
Menos 3.
For the first 50 meters, Audrey is relaxed, and the dive goes well. Then, at 80 meters, the real work begins.
I know that now I'm at 80 meters, I have to focus even more than before to equalize.
At 100 meters, the water is getting colder as the temperature drops. With each passing second, the tension rises. By the time Audrey reaches the bottom, the pressure is nearly 13 times greater than on the Earth's surface. For Pipin, it's a proud moment. But Audrey's achievement is even greater than they thought.
We'll need to review the official gauges in more detail, but approximately 130 meters would be the current world record, and a very good job. Well done.
Audrey's new record is 426.5 feet, ranking her the #1 woman in the world and the 5th deepest freediver in history.
I'm very happy because we passed all the problems and we set the record.
For Pipin and Audrey, records like this one help to raise the sport's profile and spread the word about freediving to both young and old. But with extreme freediving, each new challenge brings an even greater risk. A risk that only a few will take in the quest to learn just how deep humans can go.